and welcome to a calculus tutorial by Physics Man Education. I'm Physics Man, and in today's tutorial we will derive the quadratic formula. Now, the first thing we should ask is, why do we care about the quadratic formula? Given a specific quadratic function, the quadratic formula can be used to generally find the roots of that function. You may remember in previous tutorials that we did this by factoring the quadratic function and then saying that each factor, if that is 0, the whole function is 0. But the problem we run into there is that quadratic function is not always easily factorable. The quadratic formula can be used on any function. In order to derive it, we will make use of completing the square. So if you don't know how to complete this square, just watch our last video. Alright, let's get started. The way we start is by writing the general form of the quadratic function. So we say y will equal to ax squared plus bx plus c. Now, as an annotation, we note that the value of x that is a root is necessarily the value of x that returns y is equal to 0, because y equals 0 is a necessary condition of the root of the function. So we will say y must equal 0. Now this will allow us to simply replace y by 0. So 0 is equal to ax squared plus bx plus c. Now you may remember that from completing the square, that a coefficient of a that is not equal to 1 is problematic. And we dealt with that by simply dividing the entire thing by a. Well, 0 divided by a is of course still going to just be 0. Ax squared divided by a is x squared plus bx over a plus c over a. Then we derived that d in this case must be b over 2a. So we need to add d squared and subtract d squared. So 0 will equal to x squared plus bx over a plus b over 2a squared, and then subtract the same term. And then of course we still have to keep our c over a. We can convince ourselves that these two equations are the same, or that this function is unchanged, because these two terms cancel each other out. Now, what we're going to have to do is finish completing the square. So remember that we have x plus d. D is b over 2a. So x plus b over 2a squared. And then this term will simply be a constant. So we'll have and because this is a constant that doesn't depend on x, and there's only one x in this bracket, we can now solve this for x. And here's how we're going to do that. First, we have to move this over to the other side. So we'll get x plus b over 2a squared is equal to the negative of that. So when this goes over, c over a will become positive, and this positive will become a negative. So we'll have x plus b over 2a squared is equal to b over 2a squared minus c over a. The next thing we have to do is take the square root of both sides. So on the left hand side, this will be relatively easy. We'll have x plus b over 2a. Now, an interesting thing is that, first of all, this whole thing has to be underneath our square root sign. And the other thing is that if this is squared, or if this is squared, we'll get that. But if the minus of this is squared, we'll get the same thing. So we have to add plus or minus. This will ultimately give us two solutions from our quadratic formula, or in general, two possible roots to the parabola. Now finally we just move b over 2a over to the other side. And there you have it. We have officially solved for x. However, this quadratic formula looks kind of long and cumbersome, and it could be simplified a little bit. First of all, we can put everything under a common denominator, or 2a. So we can say x is equal to minus b plus or minus. Now if I divide this term by 2a, I have to also multiply it by 2a. So we can say 2a root and now the whole thing is over 2a. This can be simplified by one more step, and that step is to take this 2a inside of the square root and multiply through. Remember that when 2a goes inside of the square root, it will become 4a. So, or sorry, 4a squared. So we'll have x is equal to minus b plus or minus square root of b squared over 4a squared times 4a squared will simply be b squared. And then c over a times 4a squared. Well, a will cancel out in the denominator here, will cancel out the square of the numerator a, and we'll just have 4ac. And the entire thing is still divided by 2a. If you don't believe me that my derivation was correct today, you can look up this formula in any math textbook. And in general, it goes like this. X equals minus b plus or minus, or I should say, we'll get two solutions, right? So the first solution will be x is equal to minus b plus our square root term all over 2a, and we can call that solution x1. x2 will be equal to minus b minus our square root term. And all that divided by 2a. This will give us three cases, which we'll talk about in our next tutorial. But for now, I hope that this was useful, and definitely you can use this quadratic formula in order to find the roots of any quadratic function. Thank you for watching. This has been a production by Physics Man Education. I'm Physics Man. I'll see you in the future. But I do wonder, as of my last tutorial, I got a new whiteboard, but I wonder what happened to the old one.